Hi there, Chris, Chap in the Cap, Moto Legends. Today we're going to be talking about a new modular helmet, a new flip lid helmet from our friends at Shark in France. The helmet is called the Evo GT. Helmet we're going to be talking about today is the latest iteration in the Evo series of helmets from Shark. It is a great concept and it gives you a helmet that in some ways is much better than a normal flip lid, because when you raise the chin bar, it rotates to 180 degrees, it locks in at the back of the helmet and it leaves you with a helmet that is a proper full face helmet that you can ride in at speed. And that's in contrast to your standard flip lid helmet. Not that this is a standard flip lid helmet, this is a fantastic flip lid helmet, this is the Shui Neotech 2, but when you raise it, the chin bar sits there. It's like a barn door, you can't ride at speed in it. Technically you might be allowed to, but it's going to create noise, it's going to create buffeting. That's not what flip lids were designed for. Flip lids like this are designed so that when you lift them up, you can go and ask someone for directions, you can buy petrol at a petrol station. If you're moving through town at walking pace, you can open it up and allow a little bit more air in, but a helmet like this, a standard flip lid, was not designed to be worn in its open configuration, unlike these helmets. So when it's in its full face configuration, it is a proper full face, as protective as any helmet out there. But we think it makes for a particularly brilliant open face helmet. And the reason being that the design of the helmet, the way it's created, we have these long extensions that come down the jaw almost to the chin. And it means if you were to have an accident in this helmet and come off, you'd stand a better chance of walking away without any scratches or bruises than you would in a standard open face helmet. The concept behind this did not originate with Shark, it came from another French company called Roof. Roof is still around, they make fantastic funky helmets, but on any objective analysis you would have to say that really the Shark is a better helmet, it's a more serious helmet, better components, it's quieter. This is a helmet that certainly across the continent a lot of people commute in, you can go touring in it, it is a fantastic helmet. The series has been through lots of different models during its existence. There was the Evoline 1, it wasn't originally called the Evoline 1, it was just the Evoline when it came out, but there was the first Evoline, then that evolved to the Evoline number 2, the Evoline 3 and the Evoline 4. There was a slight issue with the helmet. We never thought it was a deal breaker, it was just one of those things that you learnt was a quirk of the way these helmets were. And in essence it was this. If you wanted to, I've got that the wrong way around. If you wanted to raise the chin bar and bring it round to the front of the helmet, you had to manually lift the visor first. And then it would clear it, it wouldn't foul. But no issue, you're riding along, you want to put the chin bar down, perhaps because you're going to pick up in speed, you just raise this, you brought the chin bar over, and then once that was done, you put the visor down. We didn't think it was a major issue, but clearly Shark did. They must have had complaints from people saying, that's just too much hassle, why can't you engineer a solution? And that's very much what Shark did. They came up with a new model a couple of years ago. That helmet was called the Evo 1, and it had a very clever mechanism of levers and cams that meant that as you pulled the chin bar round, as you did that, the visor raised itself, and then it meant that the chin bar could clear the visor. When it was closed, you then just close the visor down after it. They proclaimed very loudly how clever this was, how they had used the very latest reverse engineering techniques to get the tolerances right. It was a masterpiece, but there was an issue. The helmet simply didn't work. There were too many problems with it. There were a number of problems, one of them being that this chin bar, the mechanism was so delicate and so complicated that the chin bar would often get stuck. You'd find yourself pulling on it, and you could have a similar issue at the back when you tried to pull it forward. At one point, Shark actually issued instructions to motorcyclists about how to close the chin bar, how to open the chin bar. But in our view, when you have to tell a motorcyclist how to close a helmet, you've kind of lost it. It's not working. There was another issue, and this very much was down, I feel, to the fine tolerances of the reverse engineering. Because what would happen, particularly when you had the pin-lock visor inserted, because the helmet came with a pin-lock visor, it would rub on this rubber trim that lines the visor aperture. And what that meant, as you did this, over time, it would create a mark in the pin lock, and that mark was right in the line of sight. And it was unacceptable. A lot of people bought their helmets back. They had to be sent back to the factory. They had a fix for it, or they had their helmets replaced, and that didn't solve the problem, because guess what? When you've got a replacement, the chances are you're going to find you had exactly the same problem again. It didn't happen to all helmets, but it happened on too many of them. Shark then came up with another model, the Evo GT, and that was supposed to have fixed the problem. Unfortunately, it didn't quite. The instances, I acknowledge, were less. There was less scratching on the visor, less sticking, but it was still prevalent, and I think it was doing Shark damage because there were too many instances of people being unhappy with their helmets. Last year, 2020, Shark brought out a new helmet. This helmet, in fact. This is the Evo ES. The mechanism seemed to be fine now, but what they did, instead of supplying this helmet with a visor with a pin lock, it came with a very effective anti-fog coated visor, and it worked really well. We have not had, I think, in the year that we've been selling this helmet, and it's sold very well, we haven't had a single instance of people saying, I miss a pin lock visor, this visor is fogging up. So we thought this was the solution. We were very happy with this. We were not gagging for Shark to come out with a new helmet with a pin lock visor, but embarrassed perhaps by their failure to make this helmet work with a pin lock, because a pin lock is an indication of a quality helmet, and if you are commuting all year round, particularly if you're commuting through the winter, then a lot of people will want a pin lock visor. Embarrassed by their failure to make it work, in our view, they have come up with a new model, and that new model is called the Evo GT, and that model comes with a pin lock visor. We can see that the helmet is much improved, but what we're going to do is talk first about the concept, what the type of helmet is, who it's aimed at, and then we'll go on and we'll talk about the upgrades. As I mentioned, the concept behind this kind of helmet is a very attractive one. You've got the benefits of a full face helmet when you're riding at speed, but when you want that wind in your hair feeling, when you're slowing down, perhaps you just want a bit more cool air coming in, you can create an open face helmet. This style of helmet is particularly popular on the continent, particularly amongst commuters. So imagine that you're coming into a big city, a large conurbation like Paris or Milan, when you're on the ring road or the Périphérique and you're on your maxi scooter and you're gunning along between the traffic at 80 miles an hour like a lunatic, you will have the helmet in the closed position. You turn off the ring road, you come into town, the traffic slows, you're going to start getting hot with all the traffic. At that point, you take the chin bar, you bring it around the back, and you've then got the perfect open face helmet. So for a certain kind of commute, this is the perfect helmet. I think I would say that you need to understand what kind of commute I'm talking about. In that, if you were to commute from here, where we are in Guildford, into the centre of London, you're going to be spending a large part of that commute on the A3 at 70 miles an hour. This is not the perfect helmet in our view for motorway speeds, and that's because it's just a little bit noisy. Fine, once you get into town and slow down, you can open it up and you've got the open face element, but I would say that this is going to be the perfect commuting helmet for someone who ends up not spending much of their commute at above 60 miles an hour. It's also a fantastic touring helmet. If you're going, let's say you're crossing the continent and you're going to be doing a mix of fast stuff and slow stuff. When you're out on the A roads or you're bumming down the autoroute, having said it's a wee bit noisy, you might just have to live with that. But when you're riding faster, you've got the full face helmet, but you come into a town, let's say you've gone somewhere hot, you've gone down to the south of France or Italy or Spain, you're going to want to get a bit more cool air in. You're riding along the coast, you're not riding quickly, you just want a cool helmet, you open it up, and then you've got, as we've said, a proper open face helmet. So it works really well in those kind of conditions, and it's got to be said that if you want a helmet that's flexible, that's going to give you the ultimate open face helmet and a proper full face helmet, you've got no choice. You've got no choice. You couldn't do it, in my view, in the roof helmet. It would just be far too noisy. It would not be comfortable enough. We've mentioned that we're particularly enthusiastic about this helmet as an open face helmet because of the chin coverage, but what else do you need to know about it? The shell on all Evo helmets is thermoplastic. These days, that's a fairly basic form of construction. It's quite heavy. It does mean that these helmets always do particularly well under the Sharp test. And even though this helmet is too early in its life to have been Sharp tested yet, I can predict fairly confidently that this helmet will end up with 5 stars. I have to say here at Motor Legends, that doesn't mean much to us. The Sharp test within the industry is much discredited. The major helmet manufacturers don't really take much notice of it because they are testing to their own different standard anyway. But if that means a lot to you, if you're someone who only buys a helmet based on a Sharp ranking, then you can be fairly sure that the Shark Evo GT is going to get 5 stars. Comes in 2 shell sizes. That in our view is slightly sub-optimum. In our view, a helmet needs to come in 3 sizes if it's to adequately fit everyone from those with the smallest heads up to the larger heads, up to the largest heads. So there's always going to be a compromise in a helmet that only comes in 2 sizes. It's not the lightest helmet. I've mentioned that it's thermoplastic. Thermoplastic is not the lightest material. Comes in at 650 grams. That's okay. In truth, most flip lids come in on the quite heavy side because they've got mechanisms going on. They've got bits of metal and so on. So a flip lid is never going to be quiet. It's never going to be light. 1650, it's acceptable. In terms of the visor on the Evo GT, you've got a Class 1 optical visor. That means you've got a fantastic quality screen here that's not going to distort. You've got a drop down sun visor, what you would expect with most flip lids. You've got, for venting, you've got a vent here, a 2-position vent on the chin, and then you've also got adjustable vents here on the brow. It closes by means of a micrometric adjuster. The cheek pads are changeable for different thicknesses. It's a fairly limited range that they're available in. So unlike with a Shoei helmet where you've always got a larger one, a thicker one or a thinner one, there will be a limited ability to do that with the Shark. In terms of comms, there is a solution. Shark have their own system. It's called Shark Tooth, but on all accounts, it's just to be avoided. It's not a very good system. Even the importer doesn't recommend it. So what we would go with, there's a brand new system has just come out. We're recording this in early 2021. A new system that, in fact, as we record this, it's not quite out. It's due any day now. It's a system called the UCOM system from Interphone. It's a beautiful slim unit. The battery goes on the back here, but the benefit of that unit is it's totally compatible, seamlessly compatible with people who have both Sena and Interphone. So the problem with intercoms has always been you either go out with Sena people or Interphone people or Cardo people. The system from Interphone, the UCOM, means that you can talk with people who've got both Sena and Interphone systems. Unfortunately, if you've got a Cardo, a friend who's got a Cardo system, you can't talk to them. Let's talk about the upgrades. What's new on the Evo GT? The most obvious in our book are these metal guides here that allow the chin bar to come down and close. I mentioned before that sticking that you used to get with the Evo 1 and the Evo 1.2, that's now gone completely. We've had a helmet here in the building for a few weeks. We've opened and closed it more times than most people would in a lifetime's usage. It seems to work perfectly. It doesn't get stuck. It hasn't failed once. Shark also say that now, with these metal guides that pull the chin bar in, that you should be able to close the helmet and it should locate on both sides in one movement. Have to say we weren't always successful with that. That doesn't worry us. We don't see it as a problem. In our view, whenever you put a flip lid helmet on, as a matter of precaution, you're always going to go click, click, make sure it's in place. So perhaps over time you will develop a knack that enables you to do this. Perhaps you just need more confidence with it and to move it across it or move it down at greater speed. We couldn't always make it locate first time, but as we said, not an issue for us. The other major upgrade is a pin lock 120. We've mentioned the previous helmet, ES, didn't have a pin lock, but clearly Shark wanted this helmet to have a pin lock. This one is supplied with a 120 pin lock. That's the best you can get. That is the best anti-fogging solution that is currently available. Embarrassingly, we are told that this comes out of a criticism that we made of another Shark helmet. Last year we did a review of the Spartan GT. That was a helmet that Shark felt should compete with the Shoei GT Air. And what we said was, it didn't really compete on a number of fronts, but we pointed out that if you want to compete with the best out there, if you want a helmet that is seen in the same light as the Shoei's in our eyes, you can't go fitting it with a Pinlock 70. To save a buck or two, it just looked a wee bit cheap. I think Shark were perhaps a little bit stung by that, and in future all of their helmets are going to come only with Pinlock 120s. It's a welcome upgrade, does perhaps explain why we didn't get a Christmas card this year. The Pinlock, as far as we're concerned, it does not scratch. We've had fairly limited experience. We've had one helmet, we've been out with it, the clearances are there, so there's no marking of the Pinlock on the edge of the visor aperture, so we hope that that works. It would just be too embarrassing for Shark if it didn't work. They've had a completely new design team in. My view is that they simply would not have released this helmet if that didn't work. So I think we can be fairly confident that moving forward, there's not going to be any of that scratching of the Pinlock visor. There's a third upgrade. This helmet fits in a very specific way, in a different way to almost any other helmet out there. It fits very tightly on the cheeks and it gives you a real set of chipmunk cheeks. Some people don't like that. It's the way the helmet fits, and some people put it on, to take it off, that's restrictive. If that's the way you feel about it, then this just isn't the helmet for you. That is how it's designed to be. But if you are someone with a fuller face, the problem is this: you can push the sides of the helmet out because it's fairly flexible. You'll push it out, but then if that's pushed out too far, the chin bar will not locate because there's just too much pressure on the side of the helmet. So what Shark are doing with this helmet now, they are supplying it with a thinner set of cheek pads. So hopefully that will overcome that situation. These cheek pads might also be welcome for those who didn't like that tight feeling. My view is that if that's the case, you would wear these for a short while until you get used to it, but the helmet is going to fit better, it's going to be safer, and it's going to be quieter if you really do have that pronounced set of chipmunk cheeks, as I mentioned. So overall, upgrades: a better, firmer closure mechanism that does not stick, a better 120 Pinlock, a Pinlock that we are confident in the future will not scratch, and a thinner set of cheek pads. Conclusions therefore: what's our view of the Evo GT? Where do we stand on it? Truth is, we were very happy with the ES, the previous incarnation that didn't have a Pinlock visor. And we weren't looking for an upgrade. We didn't have issues with it. Our customers were not unhappy with it. Looking at the Evo GT, there are some improvements. The new mechanism is welcome. Not sure that we view that as an upgrade really, because there was a problem with the helmet, they fixed it. To call that an upgrade, wee bit cheeky. The new Pinlock is welcome. This now has the best anti-fogging solution available, but for most of our customers, as I've mentioned, the ES worked, it didn't fog up. I think therefore that they've come up potentially with a solution for a problem that for most people just didn't exist. There is an audience for whom the upgrade to the 120 Pinlock will be beneficial, and they're people who commute in this helmet 365 days a year. They commute through the winter. In truth, I don't think there are many of those people, because if you are a heavy-duty commuter, this is not the kind of helmet that you would normally choose. To tell the truth, it's just too noisy for that kind of work. For a short commute, fine, but if you're commuting from here on the A3 into London, this I don't think is going to be the helmet that you're going to wear. But if for whatever reason this is the helmet that you've chosen, if you are a heavy-duty commuter, if you commute all year round, then you might feel that the GT is a worthwhile upgrade. The cheek pads are a nice touch. They're going to help some people, but I would say only use those if you find the closing of the helmet difficult, if it really won't locate properly. What has to be said is that in a plain colour, this helmet is £80 more expensive than the previous helmet. If you were looking at one of these helmets as the concept, if you wanted an Evo helmet and this was the first time, you might indeed decide that it's worth investing in the best, in getting this version. But if you've got an ES version and it works well, I would say don't bother. Not unless, of course, you are one of those people who've got the ES and you've found that you've got misting issues. In our view, sometimes less is more. Certainly, we see this a lot in the motorcycle apparel business. And the ES is less of a helmet in that it's got less bits, less things to go wrong. But as a result, it has proven more reliable. In fact, it's been the most reliable Evo helmet we've had from Shark in recent years. And for many, the Evo is good enough. That was the Evo GT, priced at $369.99 for the plain colours, $389.99 for the graphics. If you'd like to see more Shark helmets or just more helmets, then visit the website motolegends.com. If you'd like to learn more about the Evo GT in particular, then if you click on one of the links on the screen, sometimes they're up there, sometimes they're down there, that would take you directly to the relevant page on the website. When you're there, you can check out the spec in a little bit more detail. You can check on availability. And obviously, if you really like the helmet, you can buy one there and then. When you buy from us, we try to make the process simple, straightforward and risk-free as we possibly can. There's no delivery charge on any item of protective wear that you buy from us. Returns are totally free, and what's more, we give you a full 12 months in which to decide whether you do want to return something to us. We have the best price promise in the business. Now, John Lewis is rightly famed for its never knowingly undersold price promise. We go one stage better. If you can find anyone selling anything that we sell at a price that is below ours, we will beat that retailer's price by a full 10%. If the retailer is in the EU and not in the UK, we will match their landed price. Now, if you are going to price beat us, there are a few terms and conditions, nothing particularly onerous, but if you're going to do it, I suggest you visit the website and check out what those terms and conditions are. If in future you'd like to receive bulletins from us about new products, then if you go to the website, at the top of every page there's a piece of script that says newsletter sign up. Click on there, within seconds you'll be in business. In future you'll receive our email bulletins. If ever you prefer to get your information videographically, that is to say in this form, then we'd be delighted if you wanted to become a subscriber to a YouTube channel, and you can do that by clicking on the button below. Now, this is 2021. We're recording this in early April 2021. Last year, 2020, we gave away to one of our YouTube subscribers a Mutt 125cc motorbike. We had customized it a little bit to make it look a little bit like a Steve McQueen desert sled. This year we're going up market a little bit. We're going to be giving away a 250cc Fantic Caballero Scrambler, but we're not going to be giving it away to somebody who is a subscriber to YouTube. We're going to give it to someone who follows us on Facebook. So if you want to stand a chance of winning this fabulous little bike, then obviously go over to our Facebook page and follow us. I'd like to finish with a little play for our shop here at Guildford. We are based about a mile from the centre of Guildford, a mile from the railway station. The shop is small, it's got a small footprint, but it's attached to our warehouse where we have more than £2 million worth of merchandise arranged over 3 floors. Technically that makes this the second largest motorcycle apparel shop in the UK. But we think that we are far more than just the amount of merchandise we have here in the building. We're all about service, we're all about personal fitting. If you want to check us out, visit Trustpilot. We have the highest 5-star ranking in the business. When you come to see us, we'll serve you only the finest illy Italian coffee, or we'll serve you proper Yorkshire tea in a proper teapot. And who knows, if you're lucky, you might even get to sample one of Sean's mum's delicious motorcycle-shaped shortbread biscuits. Anyway, this has been Chris. I hope to talk to you again soon.